Hello and welcome everyone, Mando here. A while ago someone asked me to do a review of Subnautica and give my thoughts on how it holds up to actual diving. For those who don't know, I've been a scuba diver for going on 17 years now, and I'm also a commercial diver for going on 3 years. On top of that, I'm also a certified dive medical technician with the International Marine Contractors Association, as well as the National Board of Diving and Hyperbaric Medical Technicians. So, I enjoy diving. I enjoy the medical aspect of diving. Basically, anything that has to do with being underwater, I'm all for. So, I'm going to kind of fly through this since there's a lot to unpack, and I'll stray away from the submersible aspects of the game because I really don't mess with that stuff. Sorry, you Titan fans, if you're looking for more information and professional advice, I'm not the one to go to for that. If you do want a longer, more drawn out video where I explain things in more detail, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and I'll know it's something you guys want to see, and I'll get to making that as soon as I can. Also, if you have any immediate questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments, and I'll try my best to answer those. Now, I know there are some of you out there who will say, but Mando, this is a game. Why are you being so hard on it? I get it. It's a game, and a beautiful one at that. The devs did a fantastic job creating this world. I also know if it was a diving simulator, really nobody would want to play it because nowhere near as fun, and they'd have to follow so many different safety precautions and rules, and that would just make it immensely boring and tedious. So I'm just doing this for fun and showing you guys from a professional aspect how well it holds up to the real deal. Alright, enough of all that. Let's go ahead, dive right in. So first off, this world is beautiful. I love being underwater more than I love being on dry land. And being in this game, I'm not progressing at all. I'm just diving around, exploring, and having the time of my life. I'd probably do anything to dive in this kind of viz when I'm working. But unfortunately, I'm not that lucky. But seriously, hats off to the devs. This is beautiful. They did such a good job. I cannot stress that enough. I also appreciate the fact that there's a day-night cycle because night diving is an entirely different world. However, in real life, doing night dives, you're probably not going to be seeing as much as you're going to be seeing here. It's typically going to be what's directly in front of your light. So there's absolutely limited visibility. It's not going to be swimming around without a flashlight as an acceptable thing. You're going to need a light in order to actually see where you're going. So one thing that did stand out to me fairly quickly is the lighting. It's not as realistic as it could be. Yes, we're diving in clear water and what I would argue is more tropical of an environment, but you're still going to be losing color as you descend. First reds, then orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and then violet. There's no getting around that, so it's not as well portrayed in the game. Just one of the first things that stood out, but that would really detract from the beauty of the world they created, so I'm fine that they didn't do anything with that. Now, let's get into some of the tools and equipment that the game has. Immediately, I fell in love with having a knife, a flashlight, and a compass. I won't dive anywhere without these three things. The knife is a fantastic tool to use, especially if you get fouled in some fishing line. It will save your life in a pinch. It's not a weapon, but what video game isn't fun without some action? So fighting off some fish with a knife, that's totally acceptable in this game. Does that happen in real life? Having swum with sharks and alligators? No, you just respect the fact you're in their environment, you give them the space they deserve, and really hope they mind their own business, honestly. The flashlight, it's pretty self-explanatory as to what it's used for. And the compass, having a compass in a low-vis environment, you can navigate almost perfectly if you're skilled enough in using it and counting your fin strokes. You can swim in a perfect square, get back to the same exact point. I also like that they have the Pathfinder. That's like using a line for pen dives. Going into caves or shipwrecks, we'll tie a line that we use to penetrate in, so we always know how to get right back to the outside where we can have clear access to the surface. It's absolutely necessary for staying alive, and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten lost inside of caves and wished I could have tied up a line before I had the Pathfinder tool. So the laser cutter, I thought was kind of cool that they threw it in there. It works a lot like a Broco does in real world. We use Broco to melt through metal. Basically what you do is you use electricity to create a spark that ignites oxygen that you have flowing through an expendable rod. It then burns at about 10,000 degrees and can melt steel like butter. You do need to be tended from topside while you're using it, so it's not going to be a handheld device like this. And it also makes explosive gases as you start cutting, so you can't just cut into a hole without knowing what's on the other side, because if those gases are getting trapped, you can and will blow yourself up, and that's not a good day for anyone. So the repair tool was kind of fun and honestly made me feel bad about my life. It's a lot like underwater welding, which you really should never ask me to do because I suck at it. It's extremely challenging in my experience, and the repair tool just makes it look like a piece of cake. You can't use just a small handheld device like this. It does need to be tended from topside, so that's not quite as realistic. Minus 10 points to the devs at Subnautica for making this look easy, because it's not. Underwater habitats and submarines, yes, they exist. They absolutely do. I cannot, however, condone the usage of a vertical or horizontal single lock entrance. You open that door, you're flooding the whole habitat. Not to mention, if it's not kept at the pressure you're diving at, you're going to delta P yourself, and that's not a good day. You'll be sucked through the tiny crack you made when you open that hatch, and you're done. So oxygen tanks, as they call them, I've got beef with. You should never dive breathing pure oxygen, and I'll get more into that later. These are air tanks, until you get into mixed gas breathing, which I won't do because I don't do that. Second, I wish it was so easy to fill a bottle as it is in the game, instead of standing next to a compressor listening to it rattle my eardrums to pieces as it slowly jams a bottle. The speed these things fill, I wish I could have. Now, some of the things I've got some serious beef with that I'm going to unpack briefly for you guys. First and foremost, depth and time. As divers, we continually monitor our time spent underwater and at our max depth to calculate how much nitrogen is in our body. Failing to do this can result in too much nitrogen being absorbed into our bodies, which will ultimately give us decompression sickness when we ascend. Basically, nitrogen bubbles expand in the tissues and bloodstream as we ascend, and if we ascend faster than we can exhale them out, or there's too much in there, we can get seriously hurt. It'll cause pain, paralysis, neurological changes, and even death. So, not monitoring depth and time. Subnautica got rid of that because that would make it hard. I get it. It's not accurate. So also laying into depth. At 100 meters, they give you a warning that your oxygen effectiveness is decreased. Absolutely not. Your air is compressed by the pressure of the water you're in, so yes, you'll burn through air faster, but oxygen doesn't become less effective. It actually becomes more effective due to the law of partial pressures, which your body is fine with to a point, but as that pressure increases and the partial pressure of oxygen increases, you run the risk of getting central nervous system toxicity, which can ultimately make you seize. Seizing at depth is absolutely catastrophic and can be fatal. So I get what they were trying to go with here, they just didn't name it exactly right, and it's slightly misleading, but oxygen actually becomes too effective at depth. Yes, you'll burn through air a whole lot faster, but it's not because your oxygen is no longer effective. So last and most certainly not least, the air bladder. Holy balls. No, this is bad. Everything with it is wrong. I could go into a 20-minute rant about how this is the worst possible thing to ever do while diving, but that's a whole video in and of itself. But Mando, you might ask, don't divers have air bladders in their buoyancy compensators that let them become positively buoyant? Yes, you are absolutely right, but no, we don't just slam them full of air and yeet ourselves to the surface. We actually have to take air out as we ascend. We should never, ever ascend faster than 30 feet per minute. Break it down, that's 1 foot every 2 seconds. If we ascend faster than that, we risk giving ourselves decompression sickness, possibly an arterial gas embolism, basically where the inert gases in our bloodstream expands and get stuck, causing pain, neurological issues, or death. In the case of AGE, it honestly looks like a stroke and happens very quickly. On top of that, rapid ascents put you at severe risks for barotrauma. Your lungs could explode, giving you a pneumo or tension pneumothorax. You could get multiple different types of emphysema. You could get a sinus squeeze where gases are trapped in your sinus cavities, and you could possibly explode those. You could blow up your ears. so many things can go wrong by using an air bladder like the game has. It's so wrong. I freaked out the first time I used it. Never, ever, ever do this while breathing compressed air. Please. I am a trained professional and a medical professional telling you this is a work of fiction and should never be replicated in life. Please don't do this. It's so wrong. So, all in all, Subnautica is a fantastic game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Does it hold up to diving? Somewhat. It's got a lot of things that are inconsistent with actual diving, but it's a work of fiction. It's a video game. It's not meant to be a diving simulator. If playing Subnautica does inspire you to become a diver, go for it. Get your cert. It's amazing. Just know that there will be a little bit more that goes into your training to understand the effects diving will have on your body and how to do it safely than what Subnautica presents. Again, it's a work of fiction. It's not a manual on how to dive. But if it inspires divers, I'm all for it. So, that's about all the time I'm going to take from you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Ask me questions. If I know you guys are interested in this, I'm more than happy to break down Subnautica even more and expand on these things in more detail so you guys can get a better idea of what we have to do in the industry. Until next time, guys, I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe.